Hey everybody, it's Beth. I took this egg-shaped cutout from Dollar Tree and I started by taping off the middle section. It's about 4 inches. And I take Antique Wax by Waverly, brush it on and blend it in with a baby wipe. The first coat wasn't very dark and I wanted it a little bit darker, so I ended up giving that 2 coats. I then taped off that middle section and painted the top and bottom with Sheepskin color chalk paint by Folkart. The first coat I just went in with a paintbrush. The second coat I used a craft sponge, so I didn't have any of that streaking from the paintbrush. And next I am taping off a little bit where the 2 colors meet. So I'm just gonna have a very small section above the wax and below the wax that I'm taping off. And I'm going to paint that black. And I used ink color chalk paint by Waverly for that. Next, I'm going in with the back end of a paintbrush and dipping that in the black chalk paint and just making dots throughout the top and the bottom right above those lines. And then once I fill in the top and bottom with those dots, I'm going to go in with this back end of a acrylic nail paintbrush. It has like a metal dot on it, and I just make smaller dots in between the larger ones. And then take the black chalk paint and a sponge and paint the back of it, as well as the sides. And when I'm doing the sides, using the sponge, it does create a little bit of a border towards the front, which I was kind of going for, but you would definitely want to be more careful if you don't want the black border around that. And then take this little bunny cutout, which I got from Hobby Lobby. I center that on the wax and trace that out, and then do 2 more, 1 on either side. Once I have the 3 bunnies traced out, I just go in with sheepskin color chalk paint and a thin paintbrush, and I trace out the pencil markings with that paint, and then I go back in and fill that paint in. And once I get to the bottom of the bunny, I do draw on a couple little round feet on either side. And to make the bunnies look a little bit more smooth, I go in with a very small round sponge pouncer and fill in the paint. I then take a black paint marker and kind of trace out some lines throughout the bunnies. You could also just use a Sharpie for that. I then use my pencil and go in and draw a little tail, and then I go back over that with the marker. Next, I take this set of stencils and I use pixie spray. I spray it on the back of the stencil that I'm going to use, let that dry, and then I place it down centered on the bunnies. So the pixie spray just gives it a light tack so it stays in place while you're stenciling. I take a stencil brush and stencil on with the black chalk paint. I do 2 coats of that. And then I go back in with my paint pen and just fill in the gaps left by the stencil. Next, I'm making a bow, and I take about 9 inches of ribbon and fold it in half, and then flip it over 5 times, and then cut off the end. And in the center, I am cutting little triangle notches out on either side. And this ribbon is 2.5-inch wired ribbon. It works the best for these bows because they kind of hold their shape a little better. After I cut out the notches, I take some twine and pull it nice and tight where those cutouts are. And right there, I cut off the excess twine, but the way I end up attaching the bow, you definitely want to leave it long so you can just keep reusing the same piece of twine. So I flip out the ribbon, pull them apart, and open them up. And then I'm making a tail, which is where I should have left the twine on because I could have just attached the tail that way. But I add on more twine and then tie that to the center of the bow. And then again, I cut the twine, but should have left it long for how I attach it. I was originally going to do hot glue, but I decided to just attach it through the hole where the hanger goes. So I just added some twine back into the hanger, made a couple of knots, and then cut off the excess. Then here's where I decided not to use hot glue. I added back more twine onto the bow, and the 2 pieces that are left long, I pushed through the hole of the hanger, and then knot that a bunch of times so it's big enough that I won't push back through. And then just fix the bows, open them back up, and then trim the tails. And that is it for this project. Thank you so much for watching.